Hi, it's Katrina! From trying to swallow the moon to the father of all monsters, here are 8 of some of the most powerful mythological dragons and serpents from around the world. Number 8. Akhekh. Akhekh, also known as Akhekhu, was a 4-legged dragon with a long, serpentine body that resided in remote corners of Egypt, particularly in the fringe deserts and wastelands near the fertile Nile Valley. According to some ancient Egyptian records, Akhekh was believed to be associated with the deity Seth. This makes sense as the serpent was a common symbol of Seth, who also represented the personification of darkness and evil. Stories about Akhekh were brought to Europe by travelers. There it earned an elevated legendary status and may have served as inspiration for the legends of the griffins. Versions of Akhekh differed depending on the region. In Egypt, it had many of the stereotypical characteristics that come to mind when most people think of mythical dragons. Later stories that circulated in Europe, however, describe the being as having the body of an antelope, the head of a bird, and serpentine-like features. In both European and ancient Egyptian accounts, Akhekh is often depicted as having 3 uraei on its head. A uraeus is an upright form of the Egyptian cobra that was often used as a symbol of sovereignty and divine authority. Number 7. Bakunawa. In Filipino mythology, Bakunawa was a monstrous snake-like dragon that periodically attempted to swallow the moon, causing lunar eclipses. Bakunawa was a god, according to some variations of the myth, and an adversary of the gods in some other versions. The creature's history is long and complex, and varies based on different regions of the Philippines. One story holds that he lived in the sea at a time when the world had 7 moons. Fascinated by the glow of the celestial bodies, Bakunawa simply wasn't satisfied with admiring the moons from afar. Instead, he rose up out of the water and ate them. To prevent the world from becoming completely dark, people went outside at night and banged pots and pans together, and also played drums, hoping to cause Bakunawa to spit the moon out and to scare him away. One children's song even pleads with a ruthless reptile to have pity and return the moon to its rightful place in the sky. As evil as Bakunawa sounds, he wasn't officially demonized until the Spaniards came to the Philippines and began converting people to Christianity. The Spaniards essentially depicted Bakunawa as a version of Satan, claiming that the dragon would eat humans. This caused mothers to warn their children about the dangers of Bakunawa in an effort to get them to behave. Bakunawa was first documented in 1637 by a man named Father Alonso de Mentrida. According to his and other records, the term was originally used to describe lunar and solar eclipses, along with a legend about a serpentine creature that eats, or tries to eat, the moon. Unfortunately, documented stories of Bakunawa are hard to come by, further complicating the ability to decipher the history and various myths surrounding the dragon. Similar stories of dragons that swallow the moon have circulated in other Asian countries, including China, as well as regions of Southeast Asia with a history of Hindu influence, such as Indonesia and Malaysia. The name Bakunawa translates to both moon-eater and man-eater and is used as a slang term to describe a corrupt government official or a greedy person. Number 6. Nidhogg. Nidhogg was a fierce dragon who chewed at the roots of an ash tree called Yggdrasil, which supported the 9 realms of Norse mythology. He was intent on destroying peace and virtue, and he ruled over criminals, and was therefore sometimes appropriately called the Malice Striker. This massive horned dragon had bright scales and 2 powerful forelegs with ferocious claws. He had no back legs but possessed a serpentine tail and bat-like wings under which he carried the bodies of deceased criminals. Typically, Nidhogg dwelled where he ate, among the roots of Yggdrasil. He particularly favored the roots of the cold world, called Niflheimer, or something like that. Sometimes Nidhogg visited the dark goddess of hell, who was rumored to be his master. As pesky and downright intimidating as Nidhogg may seem, his role as a dark figure was meant to balance Yggdrasil. A squirrel named Ratatoskr acted as a messenger between Nidhogg and a great eagle perched at the top of Yggdrasil, who represented wisdom and virtue. The tension generated from the insulting messages between Nidhogg and the Great Eagle caused them to destroy Yggdrasil in frenzied attacks against one another. Then the tree was bathed in well water that promoted growth and healing. Nidhogg also helped bring justice to criminals by transporting them to their final resting place along the dark shores of Nadastrand. Here they were banished to a terrifying hall where dragons ate their bodies. Number 5. Druk. The Druk is a highly respected, elaborately scaled dragon hailing from Bhutanese and Tibetan mythology. According to legend, the lightning flashes of the large and violent thunderstorms that are common in the Himalayan valley represent dragon fire. The Drupka lineage, which originated in Tibet, adopted the Druk as an emblem when one of its founders, Sangpa Gyare, witnessed a large thunderstorm and considered it an omen. At the time, the Ralung Monastery was being built in Tibet. Gyare added Thunder Dragon to the monastery's name, officially calling it Drug Ralung. The monastery's disciples were called Drugpa, meaning those of the thunder, and the symbolism of the Druk spread into the area of modern-day Bhutan as the sect grew in popularity and more monasteries were built. Today, this thunder dragon is a national symbol of Bhutan and is even featured on the country's flag, holding jewels that represent wealth. In Dzongkha, or Bhutanese language, Bhutan is also called Druk Yul, which translates to the land of Druk. The Bhutanese national anthem, Druk Senden, means Kingdom of Druk. Bhutan's leaders are addressed as Druk Gyalpo, meaning Thunder Dragon Kings. Number 4. Fafnir. In Norse mythology, Fafnir was a great dragon that started out as a mere dwarf who was known for his brave soul and strong right arm. He was the son of a dwarf king named Hreidmar, who demanded compensation for the loss of one of his sons in gold from the god Odin. Odin gave the gold to Hreidmar. Because Fafnir was the strongest and most aggressive out of Hreidmar's remaining living sons, he was chosen to guard the treasure. Fafnir became greedy, however, and killed his father to get his hands on the gold. To further protect the treasure, he transformed into a dragon. He wreaked havoc on anyone who went near him and breathed poison to keep people away from his fortune. Fafnir's brother, a blacksmith named Regin, asked his foster son and a young hero named Sigurd, who was the Norse version of the German hero Siegfried, to kill Fafnir. Once the deed was done, Regin asked Sigurd to cook the dragon's heart for him. As the heart cooked, Sigurd touched it with his thumb to check to see if it was done and was burned. He put his injured thumb in his mouth in an attempt to relieve it and suddenly began understanding the language of the birds. The birds told Sigurd that Regin planned to kill him. Instead, Sigurd killed Regin and ran off with the treasure. Number 3. Kukulcan. This feathered serpent god was one of the most important mythological beings of ancient Mesoamerica and went by a few names. The Maya called him Kukulcan. To the Aztecs, he was Quetzalcoatl. The Quiche, a Maya group located in modern-day Guatemala, referred to him as Gucumats. This god is thought to have originated from the Olmec culture, who thrived in Mexico between the 15th and 5th centuries BC. The pre-Columbian Toltec civilization, which existed throughout Mexico from the 12th to the 10th centuries BC, spread the belief of Kukulcan as they conquered neighboring societies. It's likely that the legend of Kukulcan was brought to the Maya by the Toltecs. The destruction of the Maya codices by Spanish conquistadors and Catholic priests complicated the ability to fully learn about Kukulcan, leaving researchers little to rely on besides ancient Mayan architecture featuring depictions of the god. In the ancient Maya city of Chichen Itza, there is a step pyramid dominating the landscape called El Castillo, or Temple of Kukulcan. At the base of the pyramid staircases, there are carvings of Kukulcan's head. Kukulcan was the god of the wind, sun, and sky, and was the supreme leader of the gods, according to ancient Mayan beliefs. He was depicted as a combination between a rattlesnake and a quetzal bird, much like Quetzalcoatl, the Aztec version of the god. Man received knowledge and laws from Kukulcan, who was typically a merciful and kind god. However, he also had the ability to punish humans by inflicting severe suffering on them. Number 2. Kur. Kur's origins lie within Mesopotamian and Sumerian mythology. He was an underworld deity that lived in the empty space between the earth's crust and the sea, and corresponded roughly to the Hebrew Leviathan and the Babylonian Tiamat. This dragon was dark, gigantic, and scaly, with massive wings. Sumerian mythology holds that immediately after the formation of the world, Kur stole a goddess named Ereshkigal and took her to the netherworld. To avenge the kidnapping, the water deity Enki traveled by boat to the netherworld and attacked Kur. Water overpowered Enki's boat from all sides as Kur hurled rocks at the vessel. Eventually, however, Kur was overpowered and slain by Enki. This story serves as the prologue to the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is known today as the oldest epic tale in the world. The Akkadian version of this tale dates back to somewhere between 1300 and 1000 BC. The story of Kur was important in Sumerian culture. The myths of later groups, including the Babylonians and the Akkadians, were also influenced by this tale. Number 1. Typhon. The mightiest and deadliest monster of Greek mythology was Typhon, who was created by his parents Gaia and Tartarus as a last-ditch effort to repel Olympian gods from defeating the Titans. Gaia also wanted to punish Zeus for imprisoning her Titan children. Typhon never slept and was nicknamed the father of all monsters, and understandably so. Of all creatures that ever lived, he was the most grotesque and the largest. His head often brushed against the stars, and he towered over the mountains. Typhon's torso took human form. Instead of having legs, his bottom half was made of huge snake coils. His body was covered in feathers, and his 100 heads sprouted from his shoulders. The gods were so terrified of Typhon they fled to Egypt and slipped into obscurity by disguising themselves in the wild. Typhon even defeated Zeus, severing several muscles from his hands and feet. Eventually, Zeus got his muscles back thanks to Hermes, and Typhon was trapped underneath Mount Etna. Legend has it that the volcano's flames and steam are created by him. Thanks for watching! Which dragon was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you next time. Bye!